Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanatimrandasya Jnananjana Shalakya Chakshurunmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Mena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mayyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपदान् सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्ता राधाकान्ता नमोऽस्तुते तप्त काञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः नमः ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिने इति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय जय श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय हरे कृष्ण एवरीवन हरे कृष्ण very nice so we are still in our chapter 2 planting of the seed so mostly by today or by tomorrow we'll be finishing what are some of the points we covered in our Friday class.
Swamiji's disciples
Yes,
chanting
Prabhu.
and dancing with upraised hands, like in the photo of Lord Chaitanya Kirtana.
Very nice. Hari Bol. Okay, so before we get into all of this, so where did all of this happen? So I think it was some park, right? Anyone remembers what is the name of the park? Which park was it?
Pumpkin Square Park,
Pumpkin Square,
Mataji.
Mataji.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Timskin Square. Sorry, Mataji. Not sure.
Yeah, Sharmila Mataji, you were saying it right. What was it, Mataji?
Tompkins Square Park, Mataji.
Very nice. Tompkins
And they
Square.
were having their first outdoor Kirtana and all. Yeah.
Yes, so that is Tompkins Square Park. It is on the Lower East Side. So, why did they do the Kirtana there? Like, what exactly happened? Anyone remembers? So, on which day was all of this happening? On which day of the week?
Sunday. It was a Sunday.
Sunday, right? So, why did they choose Sunday?
So that more people can join it.
Right. So the crowd was more on Sundays. The park was filled with kids, hippies on one end, the other musicians and other people on the other end. So there's a whole mixed group, set of groups, but the park was completely crowded on Sundays. So which is why they decided to do kirtan there. And what exactly happened? Anyone is able to recollect the scene of how Srila Prabhupada entered the park and what was the conversation going on there and where did they sit? Anyone is able to visualize that or recollect that scene which we read in the last class? Hare Krishna. Shweta Mataji, you there? Uttamanikam Prabhuji, all of you are so silent today.
I think a few of Swamiji's devotees, they had gone to the park first before him. And
Yeah,
they began playing kartalas and chanting Hare Krishna Mantra.
very nice.
And Brahmananda, he carried the harmonium and Swamiji's drum.
Yes,
And Kirtananda, who had a shaven head, he had a shaven head, so they were, and that drew a lot of attention.
true.
And then later Swamiji enters, and there was like mixed reactions from people and all. Yeah.
Very nice. Haribol Mataji, you narrated it beautifully. So there was an old shrug which they had. They kind of put it there. And then there were a couple of devotees who came in, like Sharmila Mataji rightly said, even before Srila Prabhupada arrived. They came in before Brahmananda came in with this harmonium. And they're just trying, and people were like curious as to who are this new gang of people coming in, what are they trying to do? And that shaven head attracted them a lot, and they were wondering, what are these people? So this Swami is coming in. Who's this Swami? Is he also part of the hippies? So a whole lot of questions and conversations were raised, uh, and that's when Srila Prabhupada entered. Okay, and after Srila Prabhupada entered, he came and he sat down on the shrug, and then what did he say? Anyone remembers? Hare Krishna. Make a wild guess. We read all of this in the last class.
Chanting.
Sanskrit
Yes.
prayers he chanted, and they couldn't understand anything about it. But
Yeah.
one day hummed that opening prayers, no? Yeah.
Yes, Mataji. Very nice. Very nice. Haribol. So he came, he sat down, and he directly did not start with the chanting, but he started with the prayers in Sanskrit, which none of them understood, but that drew a lot of attention of people around because they did not know anything and they've not heard Sanskrit before. So they had no idea as to what he was saying, but they found it very, all of them became very curious. They were kind of attracted to that, and they were wondering what is he saying. And that kind of pulled the crowd's attention. So he offered the Vandeham prayer, like Mataji said, and like our Mangalacharan, what we chant there, and all of that he did. And then that is when, after that, he said 1, 2, 3, and then he started the Kirtan chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So he started singing by clapping his hands. Now, what happened after he started singing? How was the reaction of the crowd? Anyone is able to remember? What was the reaction of the crowd?
Few hippies sat down on the edge of the rug.
Sorry, Prabhuji, repeat that.
Few hippies started listening, clapping, trying the chanting.
Okay.
And they formed the small inner circle.
Okay, Prabhuji. And then?
Then this kirtana is attracted by musician also.
Yes, very nice. So a lot of musicians also came in. They got attracted by Srila Prabhupada's Kirtan. Someone came with flute and he said, "Can I join?" So Prabhupada never said no to any of the musicians. So he welcomed them with open hands. So all these people started coming in one by one. So they started playing in their own instruments. Meanwhile, Prabhupada was singing, Mirdangam and Kartalas were anyways going on in parallel, and then Kirtan was going in full swing. People started to sing, dance, and in parallel, Hayagriva and a couple of other devotees, they stood and they sung like how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to dance for Hare Krishna Kirtan. Like that, they started dancing. People
Swami
started.
step. They did the Swami step.
Yeah, very nice. So all that happened, and people were wondering, oh, this is very nice, and they had that handouts also of that "Stay High Forever." that pamphlets, that also they distributed to the crowd. So all this was happening. So I think this is where we kind of finished last class. So I'll just share my screen. We'll continue from there. So whoever is interested to read, please raise your hands so that, as per the order, I can ask you to read. So all of you, I would request you to read at least one page. So please raise your hands so that, I'm sharing my screen. Right. So we finished with this. So in the last class, see, someone came with flute, someone came with saxophone. So people started coming in, and there was a whole lot of good vibration. Kirtana was going in full swing. There was a lead and a chorus. Swamiji has been singing both the lead and the chorus. And many who joined now sang the lead part also. So there's a constant chorus of chanting. And during the afternoon, the crowd grew to more than 100 with a dozen wood and metal clackers. Imagine, would Prabhupada even have imagined all of this when he started? He just went completely surrendering to Krishna. And look at the magic. All the musicians had gathered, and it's become like one such a big chorus with all these musicians coming in, adding their flavors. And he was striking to see. His brow was furrowed in the effort of singing loud, and his visage was strong. The veins in his temples stood out visibly, and his jaw jutted forward as he sang his Hare Krishna for all to hear. Although his demeanor was pleasant, his chanting was intensive, sometimes training, and everything about him was concentration. It wasn't someone else's yoga retreat or silent peace vigil, but a pure chanting being of Bhaktivedanta Swami's own doing. It was a new wave, something everyone would take part in. The community seemed to be accepting it. It became so popular that the ice cream vendor came over to make sales. See, look at that. Even the ice cream vendor had come and had put up stall and sales had begun. So that's how that much crowd he had attracted. And beside Prabhupada, a group of young blonde haired boys, 5 or 6 years old, were just sitting around. A young glowing coal in a metal strainer, and the sweet fumes billowed among the flutists, drummers, and chanters. Swamiji motioned to his disciples, and they got up and began dancing. Tall, thin Strayadisa, his back pocket stuffed with Stay High Forever flyers, raised his hands and began to dance. Beside him, in black turtleneck, big chanting beads around his neck, danced Achyutananda, his curly, almost frizzy hair long and disarrayed. Then Brahmananda got up. He and Achyutananda stood facing each other, arms outstretched as in the picture of Lord Chaitanya's Kirtana. Photographers in the crowd moved forward. The boys danced, shifting their weight from left foot to right foot, striking a series of angelic poses. Their large red chanting beads around their necks. They were doing the Swami step. Hari Bol. See how beautiful. Brahmananda says, once I got up, I thought I would have to remain standing for as long as Swamiji played the drum. It'll be an offense, I thought, if I sit down while he's still playing. So I dance for an hour. Look at this, no? Look at the level of surrender these people have. We thought they're hippies, but look at the level of surrender. He is thinking that what will Swamiji think if I sit down, and he's just for that, he's like standing for 1 hour and doing, which is not easy for someone from that culture. So, which is very nice. So, this is where we concluded yesterday, not yesterday, in the previous class. So, we'll continue from page 75. So I could see that Praveen Prabhuji, you've raised hand first. Yes, Prabhuji. Dhanvi Mataji would like to read.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Mataji, this time Daivik, my son, wants to read Mataji, while Dhanvi is also there.
Very nice. How old is he, Prabhuji?
He is 9 years old, Mataji. Both are twins, actually.
Oh, lovely. Hari Bol. Very nice. Welcome, Daivik Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji.
Swamiji gave a
Maybe. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji.
Swamiji gave a gesture of acceptance by Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Swamiji gave a gesture of acceptance by a typically Indian movement of his head, and then he raised his arms, inviting more dancers. More of his disciples began dancing, and even a few hippies got up and tried it. Swamiji wanted everyone to sing and dance in Sanskritina.
Sankirtana.
The dance was a sedate swaying and stepping of bare feet on the rug, and the dancers' arms were raised high. Their fingers and they taught the crowd. Chanters extended the sky above the branches and the autumn trees. Here at the throughout the crowd, chanters were enjoying private ecstasies. A girl with her eyes closed played fingers, cymbals, and shook her head dreamily as she chanted. A Polish lady with a very old, worn face and a babushka around her head stared incredulously at the girl. Little groups of the old women in kerchiefs, some of them were sunglasses, stood here and there among the crowd, talking animatedly and pointing out the interesting sights in the Kirtana. Kirtananda was the only one in a dhoti looking like a young version Prabhupada. The autumn afternoon sunlight fell softly on the group, spotlighting them in golden glow with long cool shadows. The harmonium played played a constant drone, and the boy wearing a military fatigue jacket improvised atonal creations on a wooden recorder. Yet the total sound of the instruments blended, and Swamiji's voice emerged above the pulling stones of each chord. And also it went for hours. Prabhupada held his head and shoulders erect, although at the end of each line of the mantra, he would sometimes shrug his shoulders before he started the next line. His disciples stayed close, him sitting on the same rug, religious ecstasy visible in their eyes. Finally, he stopped. Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, can I read?
Hare Krishna, Dhanvi.
Hare
Yes,
Krishna.
Dhanvi Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Immediately he stood up and then no. Immediately he stood up and they knew. Mataji, the book is kind of folded, ma'am. Okay. Immediately he stood up and they knew he was going to speak.
And
it was 4 o'clock and the warm autumn sun was still shining on the park. The atmosphere was peaceful and the audience attentive and mellow from the concentration on the mantra. He began to speak to them, thanking everyone for joining the Kirtana. The chanting of the Hare Krishna, he said, had been introduced 500 years ago in West Bengal by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Hare means O energy of the Lord. Krishna is Lord, and Rama is also the name of Supreme Lord, meaning the highest pleasure. His disciples at his feet listening. Raya Rama squinted through his shielding hand into the sun to see. 76 Prabhupada. Swamiji and Kirtananda's head was cooked to one side like a bird's who is listening to the ground. Swamiji stood erect by the stout oak, his hands folded loosely before him in proper speaker's posture, his light saffron robes covering him gracefully. The tree behind him seemed perfectly thick, erect, stood covering him gracefully. The tree behind him seemed perfectly placed, and the sunshine dappled leafy shadows against the thick trunk. Behind him, through the grove of the trees, was the steeple of Saint Brigid behind him. Though the grove of trees was the steeple of Saint Brigid's, one is right, was a dumpy middle-aged woman wearing a dress and a hairdo that had been out of style in the United States for 25 years. 25 years. On his left was a bold-looking hippie girl in tight denims, and beside her a young black man in a black sweater, his arms folded across his chest. Next was a young father holding an infant, then a bearded young street sadhu, his hair parted in the middle, and two ordinary shoe-haired middle-class men and their young female companions. Many in the crowd, also standing close by, became distracted, looking off the here and there. Swamiji explained that there are three platforms: sensual, mental, and intellectual, and above them is the spiritual platform. The chanting of Hare Krishna is on the spiritual platform and is the best process for reviving our eternal blissful consciousness. He concluded his brief speech by saying, "Thank you very much. Please chant with us." Then he sat down, took the drum, and began the kirtan again. If it were risky for a 71-year-old man to thump a drum and shout so loud, then he would take that risk for Krishna. It was too good to stop. He had come far from Vrindavana, survived the non-Krishna Yoga Society, waited all winter in obscurity. America had waited hundreds of years with no Krishna chanting. No Hare Krishna had come from Thuriyu's or Emerson's appreciations. Though they had pored over English translations of Gita and Puranas, and no Kirtana had come from Vivekananda's famous speech on behalf of Hinduism at the World Parliament of Religions in Chicago in 1893. So now he could finally had Krishna Bhakti going, following the Ganges to the sea. It could not stop in his heart. He felt the infinite will Lord Chaitanya deliver the fallen souls. Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandvat Pranam.
Hari Bol, Danvi Mataji. Hare Krishna. Thank you
Mataji.
so much, Danvi Mataji and David Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Sharmila Mataji, you can continue, Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. He knew this was the desire of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his own spiritual master. Even though caste-conscious Brahmanas in India would disapprove of his associating with such untouchables as these drug-mad American meat-eaters and their girlfriends. But Swamiji explained that he was in full accord with the scriptures. The Bhagavatam had clearly stated that Krishna consciousness should be delivered to all races. Everyone was a spiritual soul, and regardless of birth, could be brought to the highest spiritual platform by chanting the holy name. Never mind whatever sinful things they were doing. These people were perfect candidates for Krishna consciousness. Tompkins Square Park was Krishna's plan. It was also part of the earth, and these people were members of the human race. And the chanting of Hare Krishna was the dharma for the age. When Swamiji returned to the storefront, he found a crowd of people from the park standing on the sidewalk outside his door. Young people waiting for him to arrive and unlock the door to matchless gifts, waiting to learn more about the dance and the chant, and the elderly Swami and his disciples who had created such a beautiful scene in the park. They filled the storefront. Outside on the sidewalk, the timid or uncommitted loitered near the door or window, smoking and waiting or peering in, trying to see the paintings on the wall. Swamiji entered and walked directly to his dais and sat down before the largest gathering that had ever graced his temple. He spoke further of Krishna consciousness, the words coming as naturally as breathing, as he quoted the Sanskrit authority behind what they had all been experiencing in the park, just as they had all chanted today. He said, so everyone should chant always. It was late when he finally returned to his apartment. One of the boys brought him a cup of hot milk, and someone remarked they should do the chanting in the park every week. Every day, Swamiji replied. Even while half a dozen of people were present, he lay down on his thin mat. He continued to speak for some minutes, and then his voice trailed off, preaching in fragmented sentences. He appeared to doze. It was 10 o'clock. They tiptoed out, softly shutting the door. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Sharmila Mataji. Danvat pranams. Hare Krishna. Who else would like to read? Please raise your hands. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna was
Prabhuji.
becoming
Go ahead,
popular.
Prabhuji. I
Regular,
would request others to please raise your hands so that we get to know. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Go ahead, Prabhuji.
regular kirtans in the parks, newspaper coverage. Hayagriva called it the Hare Krishna explosion. The late lower east side hippies consider the chanting of Hare Krishna one of the grooviest things happening, and that the Swami's disciples didn't take LSD didn't seem to affect their popularity. The devotees were accepted as angelic people, carrying the peaceful chanting to others and offering free food and a free place to stay. You could get the most interesting vegetarian food free at their place if you went at the right time. And in their storefront on the shelf by the door were books from India. In the clubs, local musicians played the melody that they had picked up from the Swami when he chanted in the park and at the temple. The lower east side was a neighborhood of artists and musicians, and now it was also the neighborhood of the Hare Krishna. Even evening kirtanas were always big. Every night the little storefront would fill up until there was no place left to sit. There was a lot of interest in the group chanting and music making, but after the kirtana, when the talk was to begin, people would start to leave. It was not uncommon for half the audience to leave before the talk began, and sometimes people would leave in the middle of the lecture. On the evening, Alan Ginsberg brought Ed Sanders and Fully Huberberg of the Fugs to the meeting. The Fugs, a local group that had made a name for themselves, specialized in obscene lyrics. Among the popular songs of Ed Sanders were Slum Goddess of the Lower East Side, Group, Group, and I Can't Get High, yet had Will, red hair and an electric red beard, and he played a guitar during the Kirtana. The devotees were happy to see their prestigious guest the night of the Fugs. However, Swamiji chose to speak on the illusion of the sexual pleasure. Sex pleasure binds us to this material world, birth after birth, he said, and he quoted, as he often did, a verse of Yamunachari. Since I have become Krishna conscious, whenever I think of sex life with a woman, my face at once turns from it, and I spit at the thought. The fox never returned. To speak ill of sexual pleasure was certainly not a strategic move for one who wanted to create followers among the lower east side hippies. But Bhaktivedanta Swami never considered changing his message. In fact, when Umabadi had mentioned the Americans, he didn't like to hear that sex was only for conceiving children. Bhaktivedanta Swami had replied, I cannot change the philosophy to please the Americans. What about sex? Asked the
Okay.
ISKCON Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Dandavat pranams. Ekambara Prabhuji, would you like to continue?
Yes, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
What about sex? Asked the ISKCON attorney Steve Goldsmith one evening, speaking out from the rear of the crowded temple. Sex should only be with one's wife, Swamiji said, and that is also restricted. Sex is for the propagation of Krishna conscious children. My spiritual master used to say that to beget Krishna conscious children, he was prepared to have 100 times. Of course, that is most difficult in this age. Therefore, he remained a brahmachari. But sex is very strong force, Mr. Goldsmith challenged. What a man feels for a woman is undeniable. Therefore, in every culture, there is the institution of marriage. Prabhupada replied, you can get yourself married and live peacefully with one woman, but the wife should not be used as a machine for sense gratification. Sex should be restricted to once a month and one day for the propagation of children. Hayagriva was seated just to Swamiji's left beside the large dangling symbol, spoke out loud suddenly. Only once a month, and with a touch of facetious humor, he added loudly, better to forget this whole thing. Yes, that's it. Very good boy, Swamiji. And others joined in. It is best not to think of it, but best just to chant Hare Krishna. And he held up his hand as if he was standing on a stand-up bench. That way we will be saved from so much of botheration. Sex is like the itching sensation, that's all. And as when we scratch, it gets worse. So we should tolerate the itching and ask Krishna to help us. It is not easy. Sex is the highest pleasure in the material world, and it is also the greatest bondage. But Steve Goldsmith was shaking his head. Swamiji looked at him, smiling. There is still a problem. It is that when it is proved dangerous to repress the sex drive, there is the theory that we have wars because people are eating meat. Prabhupada interrupted. As long as people eat meat, there will be war. And if man eats meat, he will be sure to have illicit sex also. Steve Goldsmith was
Thank
influential
you.
friend and supporter of ISKCON, but Prabhupada would not change the philosophy of Krishna consciousness to please the Americans.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Dandavat pranams. Very nice. Thank you so much. Lakshmi Mataji, would you like to continue? Hare
Yes,
Krishna.
Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Jai Srila Prabhupada ki jai. It was 11 p.m. and only one light was on in Swamiji's apartment, in the kitchenette. Swamiji was staying up, teaching Kirtananda and Brahmananda how to cook, because the next day, Sunday, they would be holding a feast for the public. Kirtananda had suggested it be advertised as a love feast, and Swamiji had adopted the name. Although some thought it sounded strange at first to hear him say love feast. The devotees had put up posters around the neighborhood and had made a sign for the window of the storefront. And Swamiji had said he would cook enough for at least 50 people. He said the love feast should become an important part of ISKCON. As he had explained many times, food offered to Krishna becomes spiritual, and whoever eats the prasadam receives great spiritual benefit. Prasadam meant mercy. Swamiji saw each of the nearly 1 dozen dishes through its final stages, and his disciples carried them into the front room in pots, one by one, and placed them before the picture of Lord Chaitanya. There was halwa, dal, 2 sabjis, fancy rice, puris, samosas, sweet rice, apple chutney, and gulab jamuns or sweet balls, ISKCON bullets. Swamiji had spent much time slowly deep frying the sweet balls on a low heat until they had turned golden brown and full. Then one by one he had lifted them out of the ghee with a slotted spoon and put them to soak in sweet syrup. He recognized that these golden ghee fried milk balls were his disciples' favorite prasadam treat. He called them ISKCON bullets because they were weapons in the war against Maya. He even allowed that a jar of ISKCON bullets floating in their syrup be always on hand in the front room where his disciples could take them without asking permission and without observing any regulated hours. They could take as many as they liked. The first few love feasts were not only very well attended, but the devotees were so enthusiastic about the feast prasadam that they Mataji. Mataji, next page. That they
Hare Krishna Mataji, 1 second. There's a network issue. I'm just connecting again. 1 second, Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, I'm sharing again. Yes, Lakshmi Mataji, please continue.
showed no disappointment over the scarcity of guests. They were prepared to eat everything. Should I read, Mataji?
Yes, Mataji, go ahead, Mataji. Finish this page here.
Okay, Sattva Swarupa. There was something called Brahmana spaghetti, which was rice flour noodles cooked in ghee and soaked in sugar water. And there was halava, pushpana rice with fried cheese balls, samosa, split mung beans, fried into crunchy pellets and mixed with salt and spices, puris, gulab jamuns, and everything was succulent. That was the word Hygriva used. Yes, he would say, expressing it waggishly, Everything was very succulent. Eating the feast was an intense experience. We were supposed to be subduing our senses all week, following strict regulations, controlling the tongue. And the feast was a kind of reward. Swamiji and Krishna were giving us a taste of full spiritual ecstasy, even though we were still beginners and the material world. Before taking my plate full, I would pray, please let me remain in Krishna consciousness because it is so nice and I am so fallen. Let me serve Swamiji and let me now enjoy this feast in transcendental bliss. And I would begin eating, going from one taste sensation to another. The good rice, the favorite vegetable, the bread, and saving the gulab jamun for last, thinking I can have seconds. And if I like thirds, we would keep our eye on the big pots, confident that there was as much as he wanted. It was a time of rededication. We all enjoyed with completely open relish and sense gratification. Eating was very important. Gradually, attendance picked up. The feasts were free and they were reputed to be delicious. Mostly local hippies came, but occasionally a higher class of experimenting New Yorkers or even parents of one of the devotees would come. When the mall temple was filled, guests would sit in the courtyard. They would take their prasadam laden paper plates into the backyard garden and sit beneath the fire escape or at a picnic table or anywhere. And after eating, they would go back into the storefront for more. Devotees were stationed behind the pots of prasadam and guests would come by for seconds. The other tenants were not very happy about seeing Thai courtyard full of festive guests, and the devotees tried to pacify them by bringing them plates of prasadam. Although Swamiji would not go down to the temple, he would take a plate in his room and hear with pleasure about the success of his new program. Thank you, Mataji. Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you. Hare Krishna, Hare Bol. So we
Hare.
will stop with this trip today and then we will continue from tomorrow. So very nice, right? So lots of interesting, it's such a delicious one to read. Lots of prasadams, the feast which Prabhupada served. It was like when we visualize, I think it was salivating for us also, no? So it was so beautiful, and everybody has been enjoying the feast. So let's come back and see tomorrow what's happening next. So tomorrow we will finish our chapter 2 and then we will begin our chapter 3. So requesting you all to please join tomorrow as well. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्यः एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः. अनंतकोटि वैष्णववृंद की जय. जय श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय. Hare Krishna everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you everyone.